possibility of contamination, and also possible space debris creation. I would like to talk about the historical development of the use of nuclear power sources in outer space operations. The history can be traced back to early 1960s, when initially United States used the nuclear power sources in outer space operation in 1961, and later followed by Soviet Union. And as we all know, this was the period of space race between the two space powers. And because of the space race, they very readily and frequently use nuclear power sources in outer space operations. And then suddenly happened the Cosmos 954 incident, because of which made the two countries realize the need of legal regulation on nuclear power sources. So in this particular incident, the Soviet satellite fell back to Earth, and the components scattered over around 125,000 square kilometers of Canada. I will not go into nitty-gritty of the legal issues concerned with the case. However, because of this particular incident, in 1979, the UNGA requested the scientific and technical subcommittee to come up to take this matter on their agenda and to form a working group. The working group met. The representatives agreed on certain points of consensus. They were that the use of nuclear power sources should be permitted. However, certain precautions should be undertaken, and at the same time, the launching state must give information of any risk of re-entry or accident to the other states who can be concerned. And because there were certain points of consensus, but international instrument could not be adopted because of vehement opposition of the USSR at that point. However, because of the recommendations of the working group, almost a decade later, in 1992, nuclear power sources principles were adopted by the UN. And now I would like to come to the international legal instruments dealing with the use of nuclear power sources in outer space operations. Now, the international legal framework can be divided into two. In this case, the binding and non-binding. And before I start, it's a pertinent question that before the adoption of 1992 nuclear power sources principle, were there any existing provisions in the 5 major space treaties in itself? So were there already some provisions? The answer is yes. However, the provisions existing in the 5 space treaties were indirect, implied, and had tangential implication only on use of nuclear power sources. Article 6 and Article 7 of the Outer Space Treaty talked about the international responsibility and liability of the launching states if, in case the space activity damages the other states' property or people. Further, the Liability Convention reiterated and refined the Article 6 and Article 7 of the Outer Space Treaty. However, as Sir was stating, there's a huge lacuna or loophole in Liability Convention definition, that is the definition of damage, which may not cover cleanup costs and future damages. Then we also had Rescue Agreement Article 5 Clause 4, which provided for assistance in case of risk of contamination, accidents, etc. Talking about the environmental aspect, Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty prohibited harmful contamination in outer space. However, again, this provision was very basic in nature. It did not specifically talk about space debris, responsible state to bring back the space junk. Similar provision was also there in Article 7 of the Moon Agreement, as Sir was highlighting. Similar provision to Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty. It further refined it and stated that the states need to take measures to prevent any disruption of the balance existing in the space environment and prevent harmful contamination. And now I'll come to the soft law, which are the principles. Before that, yes, PTBT and Environmental Modification Convention can also have a tangential implication in the issue, but I'm not going into it. Now, coming in the soft law, which have been precisely established for nuclear power sources, the 1992 principles, the 1992 nuclear power sources principles, and the 2009 safety framework. The 1992 principles mainly emphasize on two things, that is safety assessment of nuclear power sources and and the use of nuclear power sources only when non-nuclear methods are not feasible. The general principles which 1992 principle talked about was the applicability of international law, the its use of nuclear reactors only in case where other sources are not available, then information to other states, assistance to other states, international responsibility and liability, peaceful settlement of disputes, and mandatory revision of the principles in every 2 years. The 2009 safety framework was created by Scientific and Technical Subcommittee of UN and the IAEA. Scientific and Technical Subcommittee being expert in space matters and IAEA having experience in creating safeguards for nuclear safety. So this provided a model guideline to all nations to adhere to in case they are using nuclear power sources on board. This was, however, voluntary and non-binding. But anyway, it reflected a global consensus on best practices in this area. Now, coming to the most crucial part of my presentation, the legal problems and solutions to those legal problems. I'll just highlight 5 major problems and then come to 5 solutions. The major problems are that first, the 1992 principles are only applicable to electric purpose and not to nuclear propulsion as such. Their scope is limited to electric purpose only. Further, Principle 11 of 1992 Nuclear Power Sources Principle provide for mandatory revision in every 2 years. However, it is not strictly adhered to. Also, these principles are non-binding. Thus, there are no checks and balances currently. Further, the use of nuclear power sources in space objects is space objects with nuclear reactors are allowed to be put in Earth's orbit or near Earth orbit in the present international legal regime. And this has the potential to cause large-scale nuclear contamination in case they fall back. And let me tell you, 15% of the space missions with nuclear reactors fail. So there is a high probability they can fall back, and again, we do not have very strong liability convention norms. And then these space objects with nuclear power sources are also a potential nuclear bomb, and they can be misused as a weapon. Now, coming to the solution lies in the problem itself. We must strictly adhere to the revision norm of 1992 Nuclear Power Sources Principle. They should be revised. A framework for propulsion purpose should also be included. Better implementation of the 2009 safety framework. The 2009 safety framework was provided the technical guidelines. The 1992 principles provided the general norms, and later on the 2009 provided the technical guidelines. So they should be better complied with, and we can also think or should endeavor for bringing up a binding framework, because these principles are non-binding and voluntary in nature, and we must have a prohibition of putting nuclear power sources like spacecraft with nuclear power sources in near Earth orbits or Earth orbits. They should only be used in interplanetary missions when necessary. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Ankit sir. Now I'd like to request all of you present here to kindly stand up at your own respective places to acknowledge the presence of a dynamic person, Mr. Bernie Mayer, activist of Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space.
Thank you for having me. I am very happy to be here at this very important discussion, and I want to offer you a point of view that not many have pursued, that not many have sought. It is very basic, and it's challenging. But I was encouraged by Narayana Narayana, I can't get his last name out. Rao, yeah. He brought me here 2 years ago. He encouraged me to write something for this. So I started 6 months ago, maybe now. And I'm offering you the crisis. The crisis. This is the result of 60 years of experience and study, and the studies going on. It's about the psychology of what humanity is doing to itself, most represented by nuclear weapons and by the climate. Humans, we humans, are causing our own destruction with nuclear weapon creation and with the economy and the ecology, etc., regarding ACT or anthropogenic climate disruption. This is about the psychology as well as the implications of those two major overriding issues. And I will only touch one small section of what is in here. It's an essay. It has several sections. And as I say, it's a result of much. So it took me years to understand a lot of what is in here about human psychology and what drives us to do what we do, and so on. So while this is available, if you do pursue a copy of it, there's other resources to use on it, and you must take time, stand back, think, talk with us, and go ahead. And I want to begin with only summarizing a little bit about nuclearism, according to Robert J. Lifton. Robert J. Lifton is a psychiatrist who began after the end of World War II to explore human motivation. And the overriding point of view he has about it is that the most basic drive we humans have is to have extended life. He called it continuity of life. Okay? Another major source I pursue in here is the work of Ernest Becker, who wrote The Dial of Death with the Pulitzer Prize and Escape from Evil. And he called it the most human drive, immortality pursuance. I might say that my main teacher, Thomas Merton, recommended, if you want to be a peacemaker, you must start with the most basic. What is human motivation? What is the psychology, of human motivation? So, this is very small print. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it done better before I left. It was a hurry-up job. But I'll start with Robert J. Lifton's definition of nuclearism. Before he got into the nuclear weapons, he interviewed the victims of Chinese brain manipulation around the Korean War time in the 1950s. Then he got into interviewing the victims of the atom bomb in Hiroshima and the victimizers also. Later he got into interviewing the victims and victimizers of the Nazi concentration camps, the victims of the gas chambers. So he spent his whole life trying to understand and explain how these people do what they do. His definition in his book called The Broken Connection, which is his magnus opus, begins with the definition: the ultimate contemporary deformation of one's self-image is a condition we may call nuclearism. The passionate embrace of nuclear weapons as a solution to death anxiety in a way of restoring a lost sense of immortality. Nuclearism is a secular religion, a total ideology in which grace and even salvation, the mastery of death and evil, are achieved through the power of a new technological deity. The deity is seen as capable not only of apocalyptic destruction, but also of unlimited creation. And a nuclear believer or nuclearist allows himself with the power and feels compelled to expound on its virtues, on the virtues of his deity. He may come to depend on the weapons to keep the world going. Try to absorb what is being said here. To identify yourself, to have someone identify him or herself with the power of a nuclear bomb. And to go to such an extent to believe that by having this power, you can create domination and live forever by implication. That's what he's going into here. I write, the ultimate implies final, the last, the end, power over everything. The deity is the ultimate source of all reality according to human conceptions of life. In this definition, humans identify with nuclear weapons, consequently with God. Overcoming fear and anxiety, the ultimate fear of being human, and what's it all about? The bond will keep us safe. We will be secure. By the bond, we will dominate to acquire and control all that we want. The way of life that is superior. Force is the way. In his book, chapter 23, he gives examples of nuclearism. One of the examples is President Harry Truman. Toward the end of World War II, FDR, the President of the United States, had died very recently. And Truman found himself on a ship in the sea with the head of the Soviet Union, Stalin, and the head of the UK. And he was unsure of himself. He was vice president for years, and then all of a sudden he's president with these global dominating leaders, Churchill and Stalin. And he receives word on the ship that the test of the first atom bomb, July 15th, 1945, was successful. Immediately, Truman assumed a whole different presence. He was sure of himself. He had power behind him, and he identified with that power. And he changed his whole way of communicating with these other leaders. The father of the first hydrogen bomb, Edward Teller, is another example that Robert J. Lifton cites. Teller and others thus associated the creation of the hydrogen bomb, which more than the smaller atom bomb, raises the specter of human annihilation as an expression of faith in human exploration and to the spirit of the Enlightenment. Lifton says, we would be unfaithful to the tradition of Western civilization, and these are the words of Teller, if we shied away from everything that man can accomplish, if we fail to increase man's control over nature. The duty of scientists, specifically, is to explore and explain. This duty led to the invention of the principle that made the hydrogen bomb a practical reality. Lifton was taken aback by a quote by Edward Teller about radiation and fallout scare. Teller said, radiation from test fallout is very small. Its effect on human beings is so little that if it exists at all, it cannot be measured. Radiation from the fallout might be slightly harmful to humans. It might be slightly beneficial. It might have no effect at all. So this is the kind of thing that Lifton gets into about Teller and other people in his book. And I might just conclude with the presence of Oppenheimer at the test of the first atom bomb. He quotes the Gita. If the radiance of 1,000 suns were to burst at once into the sky, that would be like the splendor of the mighty one. I am become death, the shatterer of worlds. Like I said, this is just the beginning of many things that I have studied and expressed here. And I hope that the spirituality and the psychology of being a human being in this world, on this planet, in this universe, approaching the study that you are doing here will enable you to grow spiritually as a person, to be more human as a person, but also to understand people caught up in creating what we've been talking about here. And by inference, where it comes from. All the last 70 or so years, creating the atom bomb, the nuclear bomb, and all the systems that go with it. So that's roughly my message. Again, I hope it helps you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening speech. Now I'd like to request Dr. Raka Iyer, Associate Professor, NLIU Bhopal, to please address the gathering. Again, I request all of you to please give a huge round of applause.
I'm very sorry for this in-between sort of, interruption, I will call it, because it was supposed to be in the beginning, but because of some misunderstanding, now I am interrupting you because you already started your presentations. So I'm just going to share a few thoughts of mine. I'm not going to give you a very elaborate view because I think number of speakers already have discussed about those issues. So the only thing that I think, according to me, might be having some different, understanding of the notion that I would like to present to you. As far as my perception about the whole space thing is concerned, and the theme that it speaks in terms of, as far as this issue that we are discussing here, the global network which is trying to present this particular theme with a kind of peacenik point of view. So I think we all are, here for peace because generally everybody wants peace, but how do they want? How do they want to get it? Or how do they think that they may get it may differ from one to another. So we are just going to see, and of course the role of superpowers especially, because space has been actually something that came into, or rather into scenario, when this particular arms race was happening between the two superpowers, which was, came into existence after Second World War, we all know about it. After that, a kind of mad race, arms race, started between these two. So I'm going to share a few things that I just, scribbled when I was thinking about it, that what I might be, speaking here. So some random thoughts I'm going to share with you. So I'm just here, like I said, that I'm here to share with you some things about outer space and space now. The history of human civilization is full of quests, generally about power. One such quest of modern period is exploration or domination of outer space. So we all know that we are, having this particular tendency. The story starts after the year 1957, when Sputnik first, launched by the Soviet Union, went up in the outer space, and outer space became new arena for power game between two major rivals who emerged after the Second World War, already equipped with lethal weapons and ideology as a new weapon. The US and the erstwhile USSR started a new type of war of technology. The rivalry between these two major powers has been at the helm of it and has its bearing on the judicious and unequal use of world resources. The technology to be used in developing space object is very expensive. Only rich states can afford it. So we know that now the question that is bugging and that is bothering the states is that how to, because once it started, the other states too have to get into this, because this is a kind of where we all know that being just in a social milieu, that we all try to be like others. So this is something happens. This is happening with the states also. They also try to compete. They also try to be like others. So here perhaps they are all getting dragged into this particular kind of perception, image perception, as he was talking in the morning. It's a very big thing that, influences human life. We all are busy making images in the public eye. So this is something, that really works upon the minds of the states as well. So I'm speaking from the perspective of the state. Now what they are saying that as far as afford part is there, they also want to be, actor in this particular power game, but they can't afford it. So this is what I was, discussing with Bruce in the morning, that it is very human nature to dominate, we cannot control them, we can't stop them. Stopping them is artificial, meaning we are saying that, you should not actually behave in this particular manner because this is wrong. So that's why we are just trying to, interpret human nature as just, Mani has also spoken about human perception, human psychology, and all those kind of things. I think this is about that particular idea more than anything that we are discussing here, because laws are something that are outcome of this thought. We want to do something. How we will do? Perhaps law is going to help us in that. But what we want to do is coming and occurring to us first. So this is something that we are discussing here. Apart from technological advancement, sovereign rights of states also become a big issue. Geostationary locations, the geo orbits are important to locate communication satellite and which may be on the territory of other sovereign state. So there is one more element which is very important from the perspective of the space law is that where the communication satellite will be positioned, will it be above the territory of some another, sovereign state, since there is no law, so there is no claim that a sovereign state can make, since it is based on common human, common heritage of mankind, so there cannot be any claim of sovereignty. Now this is the complication that one has to understand. That once again, those who are, as I am going to take some terminology from Professor Sandeep now, that when he has spoken about this particular have and have nots philosophy. So we are saying that since they are first in the race, so here they are the one who are controlling the geostationary space that we are talking about. The internet you are getting, the signal you are getting, it is completely depending upon that who is controlling those spaces which are strategically very, very beneficial. And since we know these states are very much into this race, so they are the vanguard of such kind of monopolies. So again, they are saying again what I have observed as far as my own observation about this spacing is concerned, reconnaissance. Then once again, I would like to remind you movie Parmanu. I think you might have seen that in which they have identified the fact that while their first experiment to continue with their nuclear explosion went awry, they realized that American satellites were keeping track of the activities. So that's why, and of course they do it. I think some presenter also mentioned about this spying and espionage. So this is also one of the aspects that satellite, which is the very core of space law. Realization of space law is being used for this particular purpose as well. So we can understand they are saying that as far as this issue is concerned, we know that when 1998 we could successfully block the intrusion of the satellite, we could conduct the nuclear explosion. Again, another issue, space debris, people have spoken about that. Nuclear device in space that we are talking about, when a Soviet lab fell in the territory of Canada, then it was exposed that the Soviet space lab was carrying a small nuclear reactor in it. 1978 the incident was, and we know that because what they are saying, many speakers are speaking, and of course everybody is speaking about the peaceful use of outer space. So here nuclear thing is present on a particular satellite. It means that the violation has happened. How to check the violation? If there is no law, how can we check the violation? Because there is nothing which is actually explaining this to be a kind of violation. Or if there is there is a violation, then who is going to take care of that? Patents, of course, the innovations are very big thing as far as space thing is concerned. Now this can also be another instrument of power. Who will be controlling it? So we know once again, who are the one having maximum patents? You can understand easily, you can answer the question. So they are saying that these are the ones that they are talking about. Now they are saying that these are the tools, new tools in the hands of major powers. So this is something through which the power is being exercised by the major powers. Now who could be the major powers? We can understand US is one. China is following very fast because I think they have surpassed the budgetary allocation. In 2019, China has surpassed Russia in budgetary allocation. Now Russia is on third as far as budgetary allocation is concerned. India is of course fourth, so that we can see that these are in between there are ESA also, European Space Agency. So they are also in this particular group, which is of course going for space explorations and all that. So they are saying that we became new tool in the hands of major power. Commercialization has emerged as a big threat against the philosophy of non-commercialization of the outer space. Originally, treaties are forbidding the act of the private actors, but America is working very hard in the direction to get private actors into the scene. And they are, leaving no stone unturned to, make the entry and make a justification of that entry as a valid, point in space law. Because in space law, when I have spoken about some point that I'm going to discuss with you in a few moments now. So we are going to see that what does it mean and what does it signify. Keeping the experience of why it has happened, because entry of private actors in the domain of space exploration aggravated the problem. Because if you remember how the colonization started, we all know about that. In a very, very garb of innocent traders, people did come to and visited countries, and then what happened at the end? So the people were quite scared of that specter of this colonization. So they never wanted to experience it again. Because when you look at it, 1945 and I think was a year, 1957 is one year. If you go back into the history, you will find that lot many countries were not free at that point of time. They were still under the colonial control. So that's why the fear was very much on the uppermost, in their mind. So that's why they did not want the history to be repeated in such a manner. So they wanted to, keep these actors outside this particular kind of venture. Now, keeping the experience of colonized world for centuries in mind, the Cooper's Convention on Peaceful Uses and Exploration by the States in Outer Space mandated for common heritage of mankind. More treaty becomes specific and closes all the gaps relating to usage of resources in outer space by endorsing and reiterating the philosophy of CHM, meaning that there will not be any private actor and only state will be allowed to explore and make use of the space resources. So otherwise a new kind of colonized world will emerge. The objective of various space treaties was, which are total 5 in number, 5 principles were there, which has taken care of non-military and non-nuclear use of outer space. The direct role of private actors is prohibited, which means that the space was to be kept away from the conventional game of power and to keep safe for the future generations as well. Any manifestation of power has been prohibited to enter into the domain of outer space. We got the earth and its resources because our ancestors were thoughtful. The sustainability is a new term coined in the thinking of international community. Now I'm going to speak a few words about common heritage of mankind. It could be equivalent to Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means to earth is my family. From the old Vedic teachings, also the focus of such teaching was to make the world full of cooperation and peace by living together in harmony. So this was the underlying idea that we all understand. India has also advocated peaceful uses of nuclear energy and rocket technology. Now the world seems to be blinded by the materialism and consumerism. To save the resources for the next generation seems to be an uphill task. Sustainability seems to be a distant dream. We may be a loser if we do not awaken now. There is being made a big effort to bring private actors into the area of space exploration, which is right as long as they are under the control of the government, not when they are controlling the government. So we know that this particular aspect of possessing land on or in space, going as a tourist to space is a thrilling. It gives a kind of thrill and thrilling experience for many. But we know that it is something that people have to actually respond to very responsibly. If they don't, then of course they will be in great trouble, as we can understand. Now, what is happening as far as the space thing is concerned, that how they are making it realized. Like there is a role of intergovernmental groups also. Now they are creating a kind of ventures in which they are pooling their energy and resources together to tackle, as I just said in the beginning, that it's very expensive. So they are just trying to actually deal with this particular issue. So they are coming together. So I'm not focusing on that. So you can see I'm just going to give you certain pointers because of paucity of time. Now again, importance of cooperation and multilateralism is also another very big way of letting this thing happen. On the same lines, I can say that for once people united for peace, we know that it was a kind of UN program when there was a kind of crisis immediately after the Second World War in 1950. Then countries of the world decided to come together to tackle the situation. Again, there is something that is very sensitive and very important for all of us to understand: the existence of international space stations. It can be used for either purposes, as we can understand. It's a very big thing here. Here again, it's a multilateral venture. Here there are a number of states which are pooling their resources because it's difficult. Here I can say one thing about Soviet Union, or especially Russia, has been a very successful state as far as holding in space is concerned. Their space lab Mir stood, for a very long period of time in space, which America could not, replicate. Again, dual use of technology, which was subjected to anti-CR, we also became victim of it. Those who are aware of it, they might be knowing that cryogenic engine technology was not given to India at the behest of America, because then India will develop its missiles. because rocket technology is not only for launching satellites, but it is also for development of missiles as well. So that's why American government ensured that this technology is not being transferred to India. But of course, India had its indigenous plan, and then of course, as we know that India values peace, we always know about it. India has never been an aggressor, and India has always respected the countries there and their boundaries. So I think we can say we are speaking on behalf of a very responsible state. So of course, if they are developing something, if they are going into some kind of advancement, they know that what could be the possible outcome. Since he has, I think, referred Lord Krishna, we know that we had a Mahabharata and what happened after that. So we all are, very wary of that also. Again, armament. Of course, this is a sort of armament. Guided missiles. Somebody has mentioned in the beginning, in the initial hour of the day, that of course the satellites were used in war to, launch the missiles without using any other supporting structure. So we are saying from such concerns emerge need to use resources for help, like when we say sustainability, agriculture. Here we know that in India has taken meteorological department, had made certain important announcement of weather conditions, which is also used to avoid destruction caused by typhoons, cyclones, and otherwise. Location of water has been met, like she was talking about the remote sensing thing and all that. By that, using that technology, that can also be made positive use of it. So space is not all about some kind of militarization and all that. This is something that we all have to stop. This is why they are here to make an appeal. So what all can we do positively? Let's see. Environment can also be protected through this. Disaster management we can do, or observation we can do. Security can be also maintained, like as we can of course keep track of certain things. Nobody can violate our boundaries. Education, we know that UGC in India has made use of television and radio for educational programs. Location of mineral resources, earthquakes, and all that can be monitored, to mention few. The satellite technology can do wonders in these areas. Communication satellite could be new Samaritan. Internet is new God in the modern world of technology that has made the world boundaryless. Exchange of information has become easy and knowledge has got effective support structure of satellites. The use of information provided by the satellite is fathom-led. So let the world be like this only. Let's use information for constructive purposes, not for destructive purposes. That's for all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for highlighting various issues of outer space and also establishing the status quo of outer space. Now, I'd like to request Ishan Singh from Ramaya Institute of Legal Studies, Bangalore, to present a paper titled Space Law in India, Need for a Codified Space Law and Privatization Challenges and Issues in India in Relation to Domestic Space Law. Welcome him with a huge round of applause.
Very good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ishan Singh. Along with me, we have two co-authors, Rishabh Srivastava and Kirtika Gupta. So my paper titled is Space Law in India, Need for a Codified Space Law and Privatization Challenges and Issues. So majorly the paper is divided into two sections. The first section will be dealing with the codified space law which we require in India, and the second part will be dealing with privatization challenges and issues. The codification of space law in India is the utmost need, as India is moving towards becoming one of the giants of the space industry. India is growing very fast in the space activity, and now it has domestic legislation of space will govern it. The codification of the space law will bring a lot of changes for performing space activities and will also safeguard the interests of India in international sphere. Privatization in India is looking for a major opportunity to put its feet in the industry and play an extensive role in the space orbit. The space industry is a high return strategic sector, and with the codification of domestic space law, it will create a transparent regulatory guidelines and for the government as well as for the non-government bodies. The space industry is having a turbulence and growing at a higher pace and is stabilizing it as one of the major sectors in India. The fact that India is a growing giant in the space sector and it's competing with other giants of the world like the US, China and Russia naturally raises the question, why still India doesn't have a codified space law. Codification of domestic legislation of space activity will formulate the whole space industry and will protect the sovereign, public and commercial interest of India. Space law would help the government in dealing with legal issues concerning to space activities. India's private sectors and other startups concerning space activities have enormous potential to lead India in becoming giants in the space in the sector. India is yet in the need of holistic space act and which will protect the interest and govern the space activities carried out by governmental and non-governmental bodies. India is one of the members of the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs, International Council of Scientific Unions, and International Astronautical Federation, and one of the members of Permanent Committee of United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space. International Organization on Outer Space and other related organizations on space activities are working continuously for shaping this global space and law policy. Law is not enduring, it responds and changes to the needs of the society. National space law will occur in international cooperation. India will have a standpoint in the space industry, and there will be a continuous growth in the international competition in stabilizing a robust space industry to make it will prevail in this space. India has ratified all the treaties of the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space, namely the Outer Space Treaty 1967, the Rescue Agreement 1968, the Liability Convention 1972, the Registration Convention 1979, the Moon Treaty 1979. I'm sorry, the Registration Convention 1975. Currently, India is governed with the Constitution of India 1950, the Satellite Communication Policy 2000, and Remote Sensing Data Policy 2011. The space sector needs more ratification and legislation of space law. Domestic space law will work in the field of legal liability and responsibility of the state. Presently, Indian space programs are administered and monitored by the ISRO. ISRO provides the guidelines for the Indian space policy according to which the space industry works. The codification of domestic space law will help in achieving sustainable development goals like decent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, climate action, peace, justice, and a strong institution by legalizing the observation and geolocation. The space-based services, technologies, and law have the potential in supporting sustainable development goals. Regulatory mechanism will assist in solving a modern day problems like human settlement, humanitarian assistance, research and development. The Space Activity Bill 2017 was introduced by the ISRO on its website on 21st November 2017 for seeking comments of the public and the stakeholders. The bill was introduced for all the sectors who are engaged in space activities. One of the main purpose of the Space Activity Bill was to encourage the participation of governmental as well as the non-governmental sectors in the promotion of the space industry in India. By the codification of domestic space law, it will work in building blocks for the authorization of increasing space activities and appropriate the national legal parameter for the use of space. The formulation of the framework for the space law will provide persuasive and convenient structure for the proper use of both the governmental and non-governmental sectors. A legitimate license will be provided to all the agencies involved in the space activity. It will formulate the guidelines for the grant, vary, suspension, transfer, or termination of the license. International treaty obligations will be fulfilled through the regulation of the National Space Bill. The National Space Bill must incorporate the following guidelines: funding of the space activities, satellite navigation, space debris issue, space insurance, intellectual property in space, rescue of the astronaut, resources for the launch, parameter for the use of space, data processing and distribution, protection of the environment, outer space tourism, territorial sovereignty, space medicine law, privatization of space, use of nuclear power, financial support for private sectors, registration of the object, designation of space technology, liability for damage, dispute resolution, licensing, suspension of space activity, safety of space activity. Recently, ISRO has announced about the collaboration with these startups in space technology for the launching of more satellites, as the current number of satellite launch differs from the number of satellites should be launched in the space. ISRO has a contract with Indian startup Bellatrix Aerospace and IIT startups called Agnikul, Cosmos and Chetak in the launching of two draft satellite rockets with the Chandrayaan-2 mission. A new rising space technology will be on the scene as the startups like Team Indus, Bellatrix Aerospace, Kava Space, Agrarian Satellite Service Limited, Astron Technology have started planning to have their space-based products and services. It is like an extra mile cutting edge for the state-owned agencies to have a private sector on board so that it could help them and it could provide them some sources for these space activities. Some of the primary challenges and issues related to the privatization are lack of experience, peaceful use of outer space at stake, liability, lack of technical skills, geopolitical consideration, the dominance of governmental agencies, the private right, so property rights of celestial body, profitable commercial venture, environment, high cost of space exploration, safety of the safety of the fellow workers, manpower, job security, and others. So I would like to conclude, like I said before, law is not enduring. It responds and changes to the needs of the society. So now it's the need for India to have a national space law. So it could be betterment for the private sector as well as the government sector, and the international obligations would be fulfilled. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I'd like to request Mr. Bholenath from CNIU Patna to present his paper titled Indian Draft Space Activities Bill in the Light of International Space Treaties, from Generality to More Generality. For the rest of the other participants, please keep your pen drives ready by the time we request you to come to the dais. Kindly come. Thank you.
Greetings, Honorable Chair, co-chairs, and everyone present here. I am Bholenath from Chanakya National Law University and shall be presenting my paper titled Indian Draft Space Activities Bill in the Light of International Space Treaties, from Generality to More Generality. This paper is an attempt to highlight the inconsistencies in the draft space activities bill and to recommend possible solutions that might be incorporated in the new bill. I believe that the first step towards error removal is error identification, and this paper is an attempt to identify the errors that were present in the draft bill of 2017. For this, I have divided my paper into 4 chapters. Chapter 1 deals with why India needs a robust national space legislation. Chapter 2 primarily focuses on highlighting the inconsistencies between terms and provisions used in the draft bill and those in the international space treaties. In Chapter 3, I have proposed an establishment of specialized space tribunals for taking cognizance of the space law-related disputes. And finally, in Chapter 4, I have drawn relevant conclusions. If I may proceed with my presentation. As we all know that in the beginning of the space age, only states were involved in the outer space activities. But today, private investment is significant and as such has a profound influence on the type of space activities, and the Article 6 of the Outer Space Treaty that requires states to authorize and supervise the activities of non-governmental entities. Any damage caused by a private space sector in outer space may make the state internationally responsible because the activity may be private, but the responsibility is public. I agree to these concerns, and I firmly believe that for growth of space sector, for orderly performance of space activities, and to attract investments from big private entities, a robust national space legislation is must. And due to these reasons, the draft Space Activities Bill of 2017 was unveiled. However, in my understanding of the law, the draft bill was full of ambiguities and was far from being robust. It is in this regard that I shall now focus my presentation on highlighting the major loopholes and inconsistencies in the draft bill in order to recommend how a new bill should be drafted. The first part concerns with the terms contamination, adverse damage, and pollution. These terms, Honorable Chair, represent the environmental protection regime in any space legislation. It should be noted here that these terms and their interpretation are essential for determining the liability of a licensee under the draft bill. Pursuant to Section 82G1 of the Draft Space Activities Bill, the licensee which has been authorized by the Government of India to carry out space activities is under an obligation to conduct its operations in such a way as to prevent the contamination of outer space or adverse damage or pollution to the environment of Earth. This provision, Honorable Chair, is inspired by Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty and establishes an environmental protection regime of outer space under the draft bill. Now, if I may draw your attention to the second sentence of Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty, which dictates us that state parties to the treaty shall pursue studies of outer space and conduct exploration of them so as to avoid their harmful contamination. Now, first and foremost, it should be noted at the outset that Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty does not put a blanket prohibition on contamination of outer space. Not all contamination is prohibited, but only harmful contamination is prohibited. The use of the word harmful before contamination narrows down the scope of the term contamination. However, Section 82G1 of the bill does not use the prefix harmful before contamination and consequently puts a blanket prohibition on any and all kind of contamination of outer space. Honorable Chair and co-chairs, there is a profound reason why drafters of the Outer Space Treaty added the term harmful before contamination in Article 9. As such, contamination of outer space is inevitable in outer space activities. It is only when a contamination becomes harmful to other state parties in carrying out their space activities or harmful to the outer space environment in general that it will be prohibited pursuant to Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty. Now, most of the space objects, while carrying out space activities, emits emissions which can fall within any reasonable interpretation of the term contamination and would thus be violative of Section 82G1 of the draft bill. Honorable Chair, I believe that absence of the term harmful before the term contamination renders this term wide open for legal interpretation and makes the provision redundant and inconsistent with Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty. Furthermore, Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty prohibits harmful contamination of not only outer space but also celestial bodies including the moon. Explicitly, it has been mentioned in Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty. However, if we look at Section 82G, it only obligates the licensee to prevent contamination of outer space, with no mention of anything with regard to the celestial environment or the celestial bodies. Section 82G of the draft bill does not make any reference to the moon and other celestial bodies. This implies that any contamination of a celestial body or celestial environment will fall outside the scope and purview of Section 82G1 of the draft bill, which further reiterates the fact that the provision is inconsistent with Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty. Honorable Chair, 50 years old treaty has made the distinction between outer space and celestial bodies, but the 2017 draft bill utterly failed to do so. It was important to highlight this inconsistency because the consequences of this omission can be huge. If a licensee contaminates the celestial environment and a claim is brought against it, then India as a launching state would be paying all the damages to the victim at the international level, but will not be able to claim indemnity from the private actor at the national level because the act concerned is itself not prohibited at all in the draft bill. If I may proceed with the next part of my presentation. The next part concerns the definition and interpretation of space object. Now, the definition and interpretation of the term space object has always been problematic in international law. Pursuant to Article 3 of the Liability Convention, a launching state will only be liable to pay reparations if the damage has been caused by its space object to the space object of another launching state. It is undisputed that as far as the determination of liability for causing damage, it provides the definition of space object as a space object, component parts of space object as well as its launch vehicle and parts thereof. This definition is rather vague and circular. The fact that the definition of space object refers back to itself when speaking of component parts and its launch vehicle leaves the fundamental issue of what is or is not a space object, or what, if I may conclude this, or under what circumstances an object becomes a space object or ceases to be a space object, unanswered. If I may draw your attention to section 2G1, the below one, the 2G1 of the draft space activities bill. It can be discerned that the drafters of the bill recognize the problem associated with the definition of the space object and thereby formulated a rather specific, more detailed and precise definition of space object. However, in my view, the definition still is not devoid of flaws and needs further deliberation. The definition is inspired by the definitions propounded by Professor Dr. Stephen Ho and Stephen Goro. Now, if you look at it, both the definitions propounded by eminent scholars uses the term launched or attempted to be launched. However, in section 2G1 of the draft bill, the term used is launched or intended to be launched. Now, this failure or this discrepancy or this lack of understanding of what is the difference between attempt and intent on the part of the drafters is rather unfortunate. Now, if I may put forth a hypothetical claim to further elucidate on this point. Now, imagine a circumstance in which a payload containing a nuclear power source is being developed in the laboratory. This payload is intended to be launched in outer space with a space object. After the preparation of the payload in the laboratory, it is being transported to the launch site. Now, during the transportation, an accident occurs and the radioactive substance gets emitted in a highly populated area. Now, will the licensee be liable under the Space Act, even though the payload has yet not reached the launch site and has nothing to do with the space object? This creates a rather manifestly absurd situation, and I recommend that drafters should use the word attempted to be launched. With this, I conclude my speech.
Thank you so much for the presentation, sir. Now I'd like to request Mr. R. Anthony Raj from Ambedkar Law University, Tamil Nadu, to present his paper titled Legal Aspects of Orbital Debris for Study. Do we have Mr. R. Anthony Raj in the conference hall? Having seen no response, we'd like to proceed with the sixth presenter of the evening, Mr. P. Pradeep Manikandal from School of Excellency in Law, TNDA-LU, on the paper titled Innovating Space Market Corporate Sovereignty. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my topic is corporate sovereignty in the innovating space market. So, for this, I would like to divide the concept into 5 chapters. So, first chapter, I'll be dealing with the introduction. In the introduction part, I'll be telling about the main aim and the purpose of this research paper. Actually, the main aim of this research paper is to introduce a new concept called corporate sovereignty. Actually, this proposal is made by completely absorbing the restraint which is faced by the aerospace companies. Aerospace companies are the government which face a difficult situation at this present circumstance. So this is why, because an adequate space is not given to the aerospace companies and the government to work and to create an impactable record in the space research. So for this, I would like to talk about the role and aftermath effects of implementing this concept. In the chapter 2, I'll be dealing with the drawbacks in the existing layout and the need of a corporate sovereignty at the present time. So the drawbacks is divided into 2. First is the shortage of funds, and second one is undetermined legislation. So shortage of funds means insufficient funds. Insufficient funds means like ISRO and NASA, the governmental organizations, even the governmental organizations are facing this kind of stuff. This is why, because government focus on each and every department. So almost the government should focus on the welfare of all the departments. So probably cannot focus particularly on space research. So for this, the concept of corporate sovereignty will be very useful. And next one is the anti-intervention legislation. Anti-intervention legislation, for this, the main aim of this is to divide the governance between the corporate sector and the government. So for this, I would like to quote the Space Activities Bill 2070, where the features of this bill is to promote the space activities and the participation of private sector agencies and a proper authorization of the government. And next one, which it will be applicable to almost all the citizens of India. And next one, a non-transferable license. I repeat, a non-transferable license. As the name itself indicates that the license cannot be transferred to any companies or any person, those who want to engage in the space activity. And next one is the sharing of the details and the tracing of the products which happens in the outer space. And at last, I would like to tell that the punishment which is given to the persons, those who violate or the activities which goes ultra virus by them, that is, he will be imprisoned for 3 years, or he may be fined an amount of ₹1 crore or more. And next one is the role of corporate companies to the outer space. The role, for this, I'd like to divide into 3 headings. First one is the corporate space race, and next one is the corporate space exploration, and next one is the corporate space tourism. So corporate space race, it's nothing but in India we have a well-established private space limited company. So this company is attracting a wider group of investors. Like I would like to tell Bollywood actress Deepika Padukone is one among them. So for this, I strongly believe that Bellatrix is going to compete with us top companies in US like SpaceX, Virgin Galactic, and Blue Origin. And next one is corporate space exploration. The corporate space exploration, in this I would like to quote the top companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic, which aims to send people from here to the outer space. And next one is the corporate space tourism. In the space tourism, of course, we all know that tourism is one of the fastest means to promote and develop a nation. So for this space tourism, I like to quote the example of 5 companies like Virgin Galactic, which aims to send people on a regular basis as a private astronauts by collecting money, and SpaceX, which tries to send its customers around the world and around the moon, as well as the lunar trips. And next one is the Blue Origin company. This company aims to shine in the space technology by making its passengers to do some weightless somersaults in the outer space. And next one is the Orient Space Company. This company aims to launch a private space station which may be later converted as a space hotel. And next one is the Boeing company. This company has signed an agreement with NASA to allot a seats for the next space mission. And this can be made possible only if the government allows the concept called corporate sovereignty in the space research. The chapter 3 is a proposal for corporate sovereignty in the outer space. For this, the government actually doubts in the activities of the corporate sector. Actually, the risk which runs in the mind of the government is like the corporate sector is meant only for the profit motive. But it is not so, because nowadays they come friend for the national contribution. For this, the proper license should be granted to those aerospace companies. So this can be undertaken by making a pact with the corporate companies and the government. For this, for making this context clear, I would like to put the example of a working partner and a sleeping partner. Of course, we all know what is a working partner. The working partner is a person who contributes capital and he actively takes part in the management. But whereas in the sleeping partner, he may not actively take part in the management, but he contributes capital. So let's consider NASA and ISRO as the sleeping partners, and SpaceX and Bellatrix, those kind of aerospace companies as working partners. So a mutual agreement should be between them and for joining hands and to create some impactful record in the space research for the development of the nation. And next one is the 4th chapter. For this, I'll be dealing with the aftermath effects of implementing the concept called corporate sovereignty in the space research. So the space research, the first one is like potential to fetch heavy royalties. Of course, we all know that patents are creating a more importance in the outer space. So the countries which are most active in space are creating a strong layout to establish a legal rights and liabilities among them. This is to indicate the jurisdiction and supervision of international space station in the outer space. So for enjoying the intellectual property rights in the outer space, we need an international space station. So for that, I suggest that ISRO should join hands with the aerospace companies like Bellatrix and many more companies. So automatically an international space station can be started within the projected time. And next one is a greater chance of merger and acquisition. Of course, you all know what is a merger and acquisition. Merging means a combination of two companies, whereas an acquisition means a big company taking over a small company. So in the same way, the top companies which are most active in space research mergers or acquire a small company, automatically will create some drastic impact. And next one is the impact of corporate sovereignty in favor of tourism. For this, I'd like to quote the example of Orient Span Company, where this company plans to launch a space portal in Aurora Space Station in the future. Once this plan is successful, automatically it attracts customers from the worldwide, and automatically it will be a platform for many countries. And next one is enhancing corporate social responsibility. Of course, the aerospace companies needs a huge investments, automatically, which will result in the huge profits. So the country can be double benefited by placing an impactful record as well as the contribution by the corporate companies as corporate social responsibility. And next, obviously, next one is that increasing employment opportunities. So once the business gets expanded, automatically the employment opportunity also increases. So this concept satisfies the two kind of people, two kind of people those who come from different layers. That is the rich people and the persons who are unemployed. The unemployed persons can easily avail the jobs by this concept. And the conclusion, actually, the research paper is completed by observing the predicament situation which is countenanced by the government as well as the aerospace companies. So for this, a proposal is made, and moreover, the subsequent effects of introducing this concept is published in a very profitable way. And for the suggestion, I would like to tell that India should have a separate legislation for space activities, and by accomplishing an agreement with the corporate sector and the government for decision making process. And India, which is in a plan to launch a space station on its own, can do it smoothly by seeking help from the corporate sector. Is one of my idea, and this concept will be helpful for laying a friendly platform with the other nations for promoting space tourism. That's all.
Thank you so much, sir, for this energetic presentation. We'd like to proceed with the next presenter, who is the last presentation of technical session 2. Mr. Naveen Kumar LR from National University of Advanced Legal Studies, Kochi, presenting on the paper titled Safeguarding Intellectual Property Rights in Outer Space, Revamping the Existing Legal Structure. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause. So there's a small technical delay. We'll be after this last presentation, we'll be proceeding with the question and answer session or a proper discussion session with the jury present here. Also, the eminent jurists present along with you. So after that, we'll also have a cultural event. So I request all the participants and the jury as well to kindly proceed to the seminar hall in the second floor so that we enjoy the cultural event as well. Thank you.
స్పేస్లో ప్రెసెంటేషన్ అది ఇచ్చే
శ్రీనగర్ రిమోట్
అదే ఓకే
Good morning. So my name is Naveen Kumar. I'm from the National University of advanced legal studies. So my paper is on the topic safeguarding intellectual property rights in outer space, revamping the existing legal framework. So initially I'll take you through the whole paper through the abstract. So mainly the paper analyzes the existing models and instruments to deal with IP protection, particularly patents of outer space objects. The paper analyzes the need and prospects of having a uniform international framework for the same. The paper analyzes the need for such a structure under the heads of country of registration structure and quasi-territoriality principles. The paper suggests amendments to the Outer Space Treaty with regard to private party involvement, which would enable smoother resolution of disputes. The paper suggests using the method of public-private partnerships to shift the liability of copyright infringement and other similar issues by being settled under commercial arbitration rules. So, giving a brief introduction to the paper, space law is the branch of law concerned with governance of outer space, comprising of international treaties and national laws. So, it mainly aims at regulating national activities in space, but the international space law as it stands today has not touched upon intellectual property rights substantially. So, with regard to international principles concerning intellectual property rights, the Paris Convention, the protection of industrial property, which is the basic document dealing with industrial property, does not expressly mention space patents, but the principles of national treatment and right to priority being mandatorily applied by party states may not have application on space objects as well. Also, the TRIPS agreement provides for the most favored nation treatment that may extend to space by requiring that the national space patent laws uphold the non-discrimination clause for space patents. So moving on, I'll be touching upon the country of registration method. So the present standard as is in existence is that the country of registration, the method has serious pitfalls which also has been looked into. So in this method, basically the jurisdiction over a space patent is with the country of registration, and to prevent infringement, patent has to be obtained in every country with the ability to send objects to outer space. The failure to do this can enable a company to get the object registered in a country where it is not patented, thereby committing an infringement. This is as because that upon the object being released into space, it transcends the boundaries and jurisdictions, and it loses the protection of any single jurisdiction, making it necessary for the companies to get a patent from every country where a competing space object may be registered. So the absence of space laws in a country and difference of patent laws between different countries could worsen the situation, as this method envisages a comprehensive set of space patent protections in each country. So looking into the jurisdictional issues, the quasi-territoriality principle is applied. The concept of quasi-territoriality is that the country's jurisdiction extends all over the activities performed on its registered portion of the ISS. But as the intergovernmental agreement is a private multi-party agreement, it is not binding on non-party states. Furthermore, even the IGA is silent on the extension of IP protection of inventions patented on Earth and outer space. So hypothetically speaking, if a technology is developed by cooperation of countries party to the IGA, the determination of the extent of rights in each of these parties and extent of their jurisdiction in instances of infringement and conflict of IP laws of these nations can also be a challenge. So even a private agreement like the IGA, which defines legal rights and obligations for the operation of ISS, is silent regarding the infringement of IP violations. So the remedies which can be looked into is the creation of an international method for governing patents in space. So this is with regard to siding with the World Intellectual Property Organization's proposal of a universal patent law and a corresponding space patent jurisdiction, where a single patent application would have universal enforceability. So the issues regarding this would be the traditional unwillingness of countries to part with their sovereignty and the power gains, which would therefore deter this development. So the present Outer Space Treaty provides for the exploration and use of outer space for benefit of mankind and non-appropriation of outer space by any nation. So in the background of ever-expanding space technology, it would not be wrong to be concerned whether the recognition of intellectual property for outer space inventions would come in conflict with the above-mentioned fundamental principles of space law. The Outer Space Treaty stipulates for making available the knowledge and information resulting from space activities to all countries. But as it is known, intellectual property law primarily works on the premise of granting monopoly. It is in this juncture that the concept of freedom of exploration and right to access information comes in conflict with intellectual property law enforcement. So through this paper, the authors would like to highlight the fact that private investments and explorations need to be given a boost, which would help in copyright and patent protection. Such private entities may purchase any of the rights or pay royalty, which will not be very convenient when it comes to state as an entity. Violation of copyright can also be easily attributed to the entity, which is certain, who can be tried by appropriate courts as a regular matter involving copyright infringement between private individuals rather than by the state, in whose case the law enforcement under international law is very uncertain. It's also certain that there would be a private party involvement, as space exploration is an expensive affair and it is not sustainable to continue such activities using taxpayers' money. Thus, the existing Outer Space Treaty, which is the cornerstone of space law, which is referred to for jurisprudential aspects before formulating any laws related to space, has to be amended to accommodate private players. So the amendment suggested through this paper is as follows. So the amended clause, that is Article 1 of the Outer Space Treaty, would be after the suggested amendment. The outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, shall be free for exploration and used by all states and private entities in association with such states, without discrimination of any kind, on the basis of equality and in accordance with international law, and there should be free access to all areas of celestial bodies. The exploration should be on a public-private partnership for the time being, and the degree of responsibility would depend on the agreements entered into. There shall be freedom of scientific investigation in outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, and the state shall facilitate and encourage international cooperation in such investigation. This freedom extends to private parties only in association with state entities. So the tendency towards private entities is justified in view of the increasing interference of such parties and the economic capacity they hold. While it is necessary to involve them, it is not in the interest of human society as a whole to give them unlimited powers to explore outer space, as the very same factors that promoted them can work against the interest of other parties. Therefore, the articles and amendments suggested have not given them unlimited powers to explore, but only in association with state players. So moving on to the mode of settlement of disputes in outer space, we can look into the aspects of international arbitration. So I'll analyze the fact whether investment arbitration would be applicable or commercial arbitration. So when such public-private partnerships come into existence, the question arises regarding applicability of relevant law and mode of settlement. International arbitration is generally resorted to in cases of international disputes, and the same has to be resorted to in the present case. Commercial arbitration or investment arbitration, that is the mode of settlement. So the question arises as to whether space explorations come under the ambit of investment, as according to Outer Space Treaty, no state can exercise absolute control over the space objects, as investment demands exclusivity of use. So this was the argument used by a few nations when they engaged in space mining activities, where they mentioned that the principles of non-appropriation were upheld, as they only extracted the resources but did not claim any sovereignty over extraterrestrial land. So therefore, this paper considers that the explorations and utilization of outer space is for the benefit of individuals on Earth, and the state per se does not invest in a foreign land, but engages in activities for the state's own benefit. It is therefore to be considered that commercial arbitration would be beneficial, especially in light of the intellectual property rights violations. So it is clear that the private sector involvement will only increase in the future in the context of space activities. It is also clear that the intellectual property protection It is also clear that the intellectual property protection would be one of the factors that would be deciding the growth of this industry. So the legal uncertainty as to the applicability of territorial jurisdiction to space activities leads to the identification of registered space objects on quasi-territorial. This can cause a complex segmentation of the ISS in the event of international cooperation activities involving a patchwork of rational intellectual property laws. The only remedy to this seems to be the harmonization of national intellectual property laws and the practice in the short run, and the establishment of an appropriate legal framework at the international level in the long run. So therefore, this involves the establishment of a prominent dispute resolution mechanism in place to tailor the needs of space law. So the public-private partnership framework that was suggested above can be tried to suit the need for certainty, and taking such infringements to local courts would not be too conducive for the infringed party, as in the case of any dispute. Therefore, the paper strongly suggests an amendment in the obsolete Outer Space Treaty to include the involvement of private players, which would immensely boost the investment in outer space and uphold the object of using the resources for the common heritage of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The jury on the tiles and your excellency of the tiles are open to any sort of questions or queries. The organizing team will be passing on the mic if anybody has a question to be asked.
Yeah, I think, before actually the questions, just very briefly, I just point out some the
the issues which have been raised by
Sure,
Shweta recently. So, to a certain extent, some of them are not incorrect. To a certain extent, some of them require the modifications or additions. So, let me just point out a couple of them. I don't require a response from any one of you, but rather actually let me give this as a kind of a clarification. First of all, Ankit, yeah, you have covered more or less most of the points in terms of the use of nuclear power sources. I think probably what you have missed out in your final suggestion is with respect to the fine tuning of the liability aspect. Because see, you highlighted the problem of the definition of the liability and the liability convention, but in your suggestion it was not pointed out. And then one more thing is in terms of actually regulating the use of the nuclear the power source in the space activities, probably one of the agencies, maybe IAEA, OECD, having some kind of a role in doing that can be thought of in your suggestion part. The second presentation, Ishan, there are few mistakes or there are few actually factual errors which you have done in your presentation. One, India has not ratified the Moon Agreement. India is just a signatory of the Moon Agreement. We have ratified the only remaining 4. We haven't ratified the Moon Agreement 1979. Second, you said Indian space activities are monitored and administered by ISRO. No, it's monitored and administered by Department of Space, and it's directly responsible to the Prime Minister's office. Right? ISRO is an implementing agency, and it's not monitoring and administering the space activities in India. Of course, I mean, the remaining things more or less are fine. Third presentation, Bholenath, I should point out that actually these provisions of the space, the bill, has been drafted by the scientists rather than by the lawyers. That's one unfortunate thing, despite the fact that I tried to impress upon the scientific community that it has to be done by the lawyers. They did not allow it, rather they themselves have done it. So therefore, lot of mistakes in terms of different the provisions. You said about contamination, right? So not harmful contamination. I should say that both Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty as well as Section 8.2 of the Indian the draft bill are problematic. Even Article 9 harmful contamination is really problematic because it does not cover the space debris within the ambit of it. Right? Because it's not harmful, it's not contamination per se as such. Contamination requires an intrinsic mixture of certain substances within the outer space. Space debris would not mix with the environment of the outer space, rather it would be moving like a vehicle on the road. So there are arguments that actually it's not contamination of the outer space, and any emission from the debris might be contamination, not the debris per se. So therefore Article 9 is the weakest limb of the Outer Space Treaty, and Indian provision is also problematic in terms of that. Section 2G, 1, which you basically spoke about, the intended to be launched, which is included in the definition of the space object, which we have unfortunately borrowed from the Unidruva system of the space financing. Right? There is a definition of the space asset in the Unidruva system that is for financing, and unfortunately the scientists did not know about the difference between the financing and liability. They have included intended to be launched. It should have been actually attempted to be launched instead of intended to be launched. That's a mistake actually, which has been pointed out by us as well in while giving the feedback to it. Next, the presentation by Pradeep. Very sorry, I mean it's beyond my comprehension. I don't want to comment on that. Corporate sovereignty, I don't know. I mean, I'm in outer space. I'm not very sure. It's not digestible for me. The last presentation, Naveen. I think he spoke about actually the jurisdictional issue. IGA basically speaks about the quasi-territoriality as the principle. Article 21 of the Intergovernmental Agreement basically speaks about it. But one of the issues is that it is quite against Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty. And if you look into Article 8, which basically speaks about jurisdiction and control vested with the state of registry, with respect to not only the space object, but also the personnel thereof. That means it's a combination of quasi-territorial and personal jurisdiction. And if you look into Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty, the wordings are like, it says that the state of registry shall retain the jurisdiction and control over the space object and personnel thereof. It's not just a right, it's also an obligation. So therefore, the IGA Article 21 is in contradiction with Article 8 of the Outer Space Treaty. Right? So, and of course, when you look into the contradiction, IGA should be subservient to that of the Outer Space Treaty, because OST is a multilateral treaty, IGA is just an intergovernmental agreement. So that's something which you can cover. And then the next aspect is the principles of the space law. You said that the granting of patent might be against the principles of space law, especially Article 1 and 2. There's a beautiful article written by Bradford Lee Smith, one of the British the scholars, wherein actually there is an advocacy that the patent may be granted, but it may be subject to the compulsory licensing, so that the benefits might go to everyone. Right? So that's something actually which can be looked into. Finally, on the arbitration for the settlement, already the PCA has got the rules. Permanent Court of Arbitration, optional rules are there for the settlement of the space disputes, and you can go through that as well. Actually, so there's no requirement of having something new. Already the PCA rules are there with respect to the settlement. Okay, these are some of the comments on that, and now maybe actually, I mean, I have taken more than actually the time required, so maybe another 5 minutes we can have some few quick questions to all the presenters.
Thank you so much, sir, for your corrections and advices. I'm sure these people will definitely inculcate and rectify their mistakes. If there are any questions on the floor, we'll proceed with them. Are there any questions on the floor? Kindly answer me.
Sir, I have a question and a point, sir. So, question is regarding your presentation in the morning, sir. You mentioned the word sharing only of profits. So, profits here is restricted only to monetary sense, or some sharing of the resources can also be done. And
Let me just answer this question and take. I mean, if you have any other question, the common heritage of mankind never spoke about the sharing of the resources. If you look at actually the CHM principle as advocated by Albert Pardo in Law of the Sea, it's only the benefits which you derive out of the exploitation of the resources which is supposed to be shared as per the CHM principle itself. So therefore, what I am saying is that the profit should be confined to that whatever actually commercial utilization has been done, anything, the proceeds which come out of that need to be shared with everyone. Right? The concept of CHM itself is not speaking about the sharing of resources, and it's also not telling about the sharing of technology. In fact, the developing countries have the misconception that there may be requirement of sharing of technology as well, which is not the part of CHM.
Regarding the draft space activities bill, sir, don't you think apart from the points which were highlighted in the two presentations, there are several other defects in the bill as well? Like,
I mean, I can point out at least 20 to 25 defects in the bill, right? And also, I should say that those defects which are not pointed out are much more significant than the ones which have been pointed out.
Are there any other questions?
And that's the very reason why actually it has not been passed now. Until now, it's not been passed.
I just want to make a comment.
Sure, sir, definitely.
Thank you. I'm not usually participating in space law seminars or debates, not being a lawyer or a specialist in space law. So this was very educational for me, actually, also experiencing the presentation of Indian students here. One of the things that strikes me is the problem with the US policy in space. It seems to me now that it's driven by two things. We, as Global Network, and myself being a specialist in global security, we think about only of the domination of space from the security point of view, which is a big driver. But the other driver in the United States is, of course, the private sector driver. And for Indians also, I think one thing should be kept in mind, that when you are looking at the rights of the private sector, that the private sector, when they're doing either space exploration or building very esoteric technology for weapons, don't bring a single cent of their own money to this work. It is all public investment, but private profit. So in the case of space exploration, no company is going to do anything without state support. Whether it's Elon Musk or whoever, SpaceX, they're getting all the funding from NASA. But they are, of course, interested in reaping the benefits if some technology eventually develops or they can colonize part of any celestial body. So the private contractors can be indemnified by the states when they're doing this exploration, so they can participate, but that also would then negate their future demands for profit, that the state doesn't share any benefits. It's happening all the time in the military-industrial complex in the US that are building weaponry. All the money comes from the Pentagon, then when they sell the aircraft and others, they make lots of money. So that's just an observation. Thank you.
Can I just add to that?
Thank you so much.
I'd like to add to that. A few years ago in the United States Congress, a representative from California, who's a tool of the aerospace industry, introduced legislation to make all profits in space tax exempt. Well, it didn't pass at the time, but I think we'll see that bill again in the future. And I think it goes right along with what Subrata was just saying, that all the years of research and development are paid by the taxpayers. But when it comes time to make profit, the taxpayers will not reap any of the rewards.
In fact, actually, I spoke about that in the morning. 2017 enactment of the United States is primarily in terms of the free enterprise. So it's a space commerce free enterprise, wherein actually they have taken off almost all the restrictions regarding the exploration and maybe exploitation of the resources in outer space by the private players. Yeah. Yeah.
One more question is here. Let me introduce myself. I am Prabhu Yadav. Assistant Lecturer of English, Tribhuvan University, Kathmandu, Nepal. Thank you for today's conference. Very successful. And my query here, I got opportunity to raise one question. How will the issue of outer space improve in favor of humanity? While we see the issue, India, the great country of Asia, already pursuing America, the dominant of space dominant country, while we see the present issue Modi visit over there, and what will happen the China. The query is this: how will we get improved the humanity in this context? Thank you.
Only one thing that I would like to share with all of you is that I think we are doing a right thing to make observation about American government responses and their activity and what they are doing in space, in the area of space. But I said something about power. Let me tell you one thing. Whosoever become the possessor of power will be acting in the same manner the US is doing. Because US is not the only country who is doing it like this. Today they are the ones who are powerful. I think the whole idea started from your Soviet Union. They were the one who first went into the space. And then when they started going into the space, and this was an age and era, as I mentioned in my presentation, that massive mad arms race was between these two. And since they got an edge in that particular technological advancement, they were not thinking about humanity. They were just thinking about that who can beat whom in what game. None of them was bothered about this. Now we can feel that one has actually been defeated by this particular race because they were not having sufficient resources to support those programs. Now see, the next actor is China, which is coming, once again, as far as this anti-satellite thing is concerned, they were the one who started it, not America. Anti-satellite was tested by China the first, and then America followed. So when we talk in terms of these things, this was 2007, China was the first one to do that, not the US one. Meaning, but then I think it was not so publicly recorded, if I remember, because 2007 it was very, very, publicly recorded. Meaning, even if we take that they have done, China has also, followed the suit. Because China is new emerging power now. Because when we use the term power and superpower, they will be showing the same tendency. So we are saying that that's why we all are deliberating. Like public opinion can bring them at halt. Because if they're being left to themselves, they will act like reckless, mindless creatures. That's why I think we all are sitting here to create a kind of world opinion against such kind of activity of any government, whosoever it could be. It could be us, it could be China, it could be America, it could be anyone. Because if you see that when they use nuclear weapon, they were not knowing the outcome of it. Once they realized, and the uproar in the world has actually made them think twice. And another thing that they understood, that what will be left behind? Nothing. So this is something that discourses, discussions, debates are very important to put a kind of pressure on them that they cannot act as the way they want, because there are people who are watching them and who will be acting as watchdog. Whosoever is doing, including India. If India becomes favored, yes, of course. But though India do not have any historical evidence of such kind of thing, no present experience we have. So I think even in future, I have a hope in my country that we will not be wayward. So that's why we are saying that whosoever tries to do that, we all are here to put, we can be a voice of conscience also for them. We can stop them from acting, or other irresponsibly and all that. There are forums, we can make use of those forums. But then we know that there are lot many constraints. We are also, aware of those constraints. That there is a word politics. People do pit, one against another. They weigh one another. So when we talk in terms of that, I think the best way is that we all together jointly. We can, of course, as they are having a kind of campaign, one can go country to country and create a kind of world opinion. And then, of course, countries will see something into it. That for whom they are working, they are not accepting the way they are working. So perhaps I think we can be a kind of voice for them. Otherwise, we know that what power does. And of course, they all know about this, they all study about that power corrupts absolutely. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this is the tendency of power. And that's why I said the very first sentence I spoke to him was domination. The tendency of domination. See, I'll tell you one thing. That when I use the term domination, it doesn't mean that we will be very aggressive in approach. When we are trying to outsmart in any other thing is also equivalent to domination. So we are just trying to put a point across, and it will be based on discussion and debate. I think they themselves have brought a forum, not to use force, to decide your disputes peacefully. So hope they will understand the meaning and significance of it, and they will respect it. So this is what we all are expecting, and we will be becoming a voice, and we'll be joining them in this particular effort to, that some sense will be put in their head. So this we can just wish, like doing that, what opinion can be created against them. So this could be one of the ways, this is what I can think.
Just a quick addition to that. I'll not take more than 30 seconds. Yeah, I know that it's a tea time. Right, I think probably what we are doing is that actually we are following the pursuit of United States and other countries in the wrong way. We are following, is that China has tested, US has tested, North Korea, nobody knows how many they have tested. Right, so we are following that. Instead, actually, if we are thinking in terms of maybe the international cooperation, say for example, disaster management. So how to share the data with respect to the disaster management, remote sensing data, whatever we have collected, how it can be utilized for the purpose of development of Asia. So if these things actually we think of, probably actually we can use the our benefits of the outer space activities for the benefit of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One last question for the today's session, if there is any, or we'll break for the tea session. Having seen none, we'll proceed with the tea session. And today's brainstorming session is really appreciated, and a huge round of applause to each and everyone who's contributed to today's success. We'll meet tomorrow at 9:15 a.m. sharp. The session will start by 9:30 a.m. And all the participants are requested to follow the same rules which were told in the morning session. So if somebody needs a clarification on the same, we'll provide you the same. Kindly proceed further with the organizing committee. So our students have really worked hard in impressing all of you and making you have a really memorable conference. They have prepared some songs and some dance programs. So kindly follow to